Hello, it's Sunday night, early Monday morning, heading into Asian trading after a quiet weekend after the carnage of Friday. For most people, they're wondering what the hell caused all of those really nasty sell-offs and the bounce backs last week, at the end of last week, and is it likely to continue this week? That's kind of the key question. I think in terms of what happened last week, it feels like a bit like what happened in August when we had the big yen carry trade unwind, really sharp sell-off. And that's to do with kind of positioning. People are in positions that are wrong and need to readjust. And it kind of feels like that's what happened. Friday, was a really big day in the markets. It was quad witching. So that's, options expiration, and it's quarterly, so there's a whole bunch more. And for the first time, we had a whole bunch of Bitcoin options and Ethereum options expire on Friday. We had 2.6 billion, 2 billion in Bitcoin options, I think, and 6 billion in Ethereum options, which expired. That was a really major, that's a lot, for the first time. That was really quite a lot. And here's the thing, when you go into a really big options expiry in all of the market, and the VIX, which is really heavily traded as well, they tend to what tends to happen is either you'll see really violent moves, or the price will stay in a range and pretty much pinned pretty closely to a price. And if you see a strong move away from that price, up or down, the market makers who are pretty much hedged, everyone chases it, so it kind of amplifies the move and makes it more volatile. And I think that was a lot of what we saw on Friday. So we can talk about what the trigger was, but I'm not sure that I think anything could have triggered it, to be honest, because the volatility of the move was to do with the positioning and market makers, adjusting. So I think what really happened was, we had the Fed, and they said on Wednesday, it was a bit of a downer, they said we're going to increase our inflation forecast for 2025 because they think inflation will go up a bit, but their decision making will be based on the PCE inflation measure. And then, of course, on Friday, so we had that on Wednesday, and then on Friday, which was also this big expiration day, for the markets and Bitcoin, and we had this PCE number, which showed that inflation actually was falling pretty nicely, and that's the Fed's favourite measure. So all of a sudden, things weren't quite as bad as everybody thought. Perhaps we're not going to have so much inflation next year. I'm not sure that we're going to know yet. But that's what kind of caused the bounce back relief. Well, that was the story that the market told. Just like we had, the yen carry trade story. Now, I'm not saying that the story is not valid. Clearly it was. But I think that the volatility that we saw and the really extreme moves really amplified because of positioning to do with year end. So I'm not sure that it will continue, but we could see continued selling just because we've got such a big holiday coming up, de-risking ahead of the Christmas holiday, where half the world, will be closed for anything from 1 to 3 days, from Tuesday to Thursday next week, and we'll have exactly the same again the following week with New Year. Normally, if we're going to have a Santa rally, it will come after the Christmas holiday, but for now, we could see, to be honest, shallow bounces and continued kind of weakness in a lot of markets. I think in the crypto world, Bitcoin bounced from really, really key support. So I'm not sure that I think we might, rather than see continued selling, I think that we are more likely to see a little bit of a range trade, particularly because, there's a big volume in deribit options and they don't expire until Friday the 27th, so we've got the end of this week. So it's possible that Bitcoin holds up a little bit better than some other markets if we do see selling and we stay in a little bit of a range trade. But it's still going to be December holiday, gritty, difficult kind of trading. If you're looking for to build a big new swing position, I'm not sure that this is going to be the week. However, second half of this week, once we get that options expiration out of the way, I think that potentially we could see some really nice trend moves. So what's my plan for it? Let's take a look at this big sharp drop that we had in Bitcoin, and in terms of the 4-hour and the hourly, we're underneath pretty important moving averages. But when I look at this drop, and this rally that we had from the Friday low, I like to see corrections like this in 3 waves. And on the hourly, I kind of like to see them go back to the hourly 200 moving average. So I'm watching this pullback, which really started kind of Saturday morning. I'm looking for another leg higher from here and in Bitcoin, and putting us back in the middle of this sideways range, which we go back to the 4-hour. We've kind of been in since really the beginning of December. We've been in this sideways range, price range between 90 and 100. Of course, we scooted up to 108. So by ABC, that means once we turn higher, and you can't really do it at the moment because we could come all the way down and double bottom, before we go higher. But once we do, I'm going to measure this second leg from wherever we go from, whether it's down here or from here on the open. If we make a C leg that's 61.8 of the first swing, we're going to retest these highs around 96,750. If we make an equal measured move from where we are now without making a new low, it'll be around 101,500. So we're kind of basically going back into the middle to retest that 100,000 range. Again, if we rally from here, I'm not ruling out, sometimes we have pretty nasty Asian moves, don't we? And then they bounce in Monday trading. So big picture, when I look at the daily though, as long as we hold, and as long as there's no daily close underneath this daily 50 moving average, which has moved up since we looked at it on Friday and is now at 92,900, and as long as we don't close underneath these lows in this 92,000 zone, I think that we're making a bigger base and should see another leg higher. And that second leg higher, I'm planning to sell into. I kind of want to unload a little bit ahead of the holiday, de-risk a little bit. I'm not talking about, if you've got long-term hodl holdings, holding above the daily 50 moving average, there's actually no reason for you to sell them. But if you've got some that you're shorter-term trading, you might want to unload a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking profit, and taking profit in Bitcoin around 100,000 isn't a crazy idea. I think we'll get really good opportunities in January to buy it. So that's just my plan at the moment. To be quite honest, when I look at this chart, my least favorite place, you can say, if we look at this on the daily and look at these daily moving averages, this is a 20 and a 50. When we're in an uptrend, we pull back to these moving averages and we ride the trend very high and nicely. When we're in a downtrend, which has been a while since we can find one to look at, but we can see that, these daily moving averages hold us down, and we can say we're in a downtrend. When we're stuck in between these moving averages and they flatten out and they kind of go sideways, which is exactly what we're doing here, we're kind of neutral. We're not going up or we're going down. We're kind of in the sideways chop, which is what I've kind of thought we would be doing all of December. And so, we could stay within this range for a few more days, and we could stay within this sideways range as well into that options expiration at the end of this week. So I really don't get chopped up, because I really do think better opportunities are coming at the end of this month and into January. And, people ask me, is this the biggest high? Should we sell everything in Bitcoin? Is this the high forever? I don't know that it is. I'm not psychic. I'm just reading the chart and trying to trade the best that I can based on that. I have to say that, because if we look at this on the weekly, and the weekly moving averages are really good trend guides, you can see that we have come so far so fast with this huge rally. We rallied 50% since Trump got elected at the beginning of November. So in this, if we just look at this weekly 20 moving average, we could come all the way back to 80,000. So we could give back from 100,000, we could drop 25% and still be in a weekly uptrend in Bitcoin. And so that's why I don't think it's a crazy idea to take some profit on bounces and see what happens. You know, when you're in a strong trend like this and you enter a correction, one of two things happen. You either have a nasty pullback to that trend support or that moving average, or you trade sideways and chop around whilst that moving average catches up. And we've done that many times here in Bitcoin. We did that exactly in December a year ago. If we look at what we did at the start of 4th of December, this was the big green candle here. We went sideways and we didn't move out of this nasty sideways range till the 5th of February. So we could do, if we just do what we did last year, that would be, you know, pretty tough and pretty gritty, and you don't want to get chopped up in it. If we go back to 2022, you can see in December we went sideways for 5 weeks. Then we had a pretty nasty pullback, and breaking out of that sideways range told us which way next. So I would say just don't read too much into short-term moves. In terms of candlesticks, this is a pretty nasty candlestick, but we haven't broken the lows of this range. So it does warn of potentially a bigger pullback, or we could just chop sideways in this range. So I don't know if this is the all-time high. No, do I think that this is the high forever and Bitcoin's never going up again? I do not know. I think the macro for the future conditions with this new pro-crypto regime in the US are pretty good, but you know, Bitcoin does well in really in when liquidity is good. We really don't need anything around the world anywhere to tip everything into tough times. So that's what I'm looking at. No, I don't think that this is the all-time high in Bitcoin, but I do think from this swing low that we made in August, we may have potentially completed 5 waves up, which means either a pullback to the bottom of this wave 4 here, or we could see a bigger pullback to 50% of this whole swing, which again, 80,000 is where that weekly 20 moving average is, and 80,000 I think might be kind of around where 50% of this last swing was. 78,750, I was wrong. So, you know, don't get chopped up. If you've made some good profits, maybe pay yourself some. If you want to trade through the holiday, bank on shorter term moves and not big trend moves. Okay, let's take a look at some of the others, because some things are holding support really nicely. One thing that everybody, of course, has been watching is Ripple. When I look at Ripple, you can see very nicely we've been holding this daily 20 moving average for the last 3 days. We dropped into it on Thursday, we dropped way underneath it on Friday and bounced all the way back, and we're a little bit sideways. Rather than this daily 20 moving average, if we count this as a big A down, 3 waves up, B, and we're in a C leg, that I said that there were 2 support levels for this. There was this where this swing is 61.8 of the first swing is 2.12, and if we close underneath 2.12 in Ripple on the daily, we are likely to drop down to 1.73, which is where we would have an equal measured move. And it looks, I have to say, you know, when you look at this price action so far, especially these 3 wave moves, I'm not saying it's not going to go lower, but I am saying that all of this is corrective, and I still think it's a wave 4, and we have got another swing higher to come. When you look at this sideways choppy 3 wave price action, it looks just like, you know, Bitcoin did when we did this in March. If we go back in Bitcoin and we look at this sideways price action here, this was exactly the same. 3 wave measured moves. Did we go a little bit lower? Yeah, we did. Did we end up making a big 3 wave equal measured move? Yes, we did. And then we took off like a rocket. And that's kind of where we are with Ripple. So you just have to decide, are you okay with riding it out? Are you holding it, or you know, if we close underneath this daily 20 moving average here, do you want to take some off, more off maybe, and buy it back lower? I can't tell you what to do, but you know, I think you always do better if you make a plan. And for me, I always trade better if I take some off, because if I get out and then I think it's setting up again, I'm actively stalking a really good entry to get back in again, and I trade better than if I'm holding it. You know, mental capital is as important as the capital in your bank or your wallet. And if you hold something into a big drawdown, sometimes you don't always think in the best way for the best opportunities coming up. So that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin and Ripple and ETH, and everything else is pretty much the same. I do think that we're going to get, if we don't get the bounce tonight, I do think that Monday could give us another bounce higher. I'm just waiting for it to set up. Let's take, if I looked at ETH. ETH is a little bit back to underperforming again. Now, if I look at this on the weekly, and this double top is playing out pretty nastily. And when I measure from the low that we made in the 5th of August in this one, in Bitcoin, we're holding that 236 fib level. In ETH, we've pulled all the way back to 50% of the rally from the 5th of August already. It's at 3,076. So 3,076 is the weekly 50 moving average, this previous swing low. There's loads of support here in ETH. Now, we didn't quite tag this level on Friday. I would not be surprised to see if this gets tagged. But this 3,000 level is, if we're going to see a bounce from ETH into this week, that is where it's going to come from. And here's the rules, right? So from this low to high, this is a 50% retrace. Mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. So if we were to get a lovely bounce from here, we would look for the first target. If we get above the rules would be, if we get above the 236 fib, we would be looking for 50% retrace of this whole move, which is going to be somewhere around 3,500. So that would be the first level. Then I would expect a 50% pullback, and then we'll see if it keeps going. So yeah, it hasn't been too pretty in ETH since the options expiration, but that's how I'm seeing it. And again, I think we'll keep in this range around these moving averages. We've got Deribit options expiring in ETH this week as well. There are, you know, when I look at some of the altcoins, an awful lot of them have pulled back to really nice moving averages, or potentially are really nice setups. Let's take a look at some. This is Aave that I've got. But this is another one where I think we've had the nasty drop. We should see, I'm expecting 3 waves and then potentially another drop lower in this one. And I'm looking to see how high we can get. I've got a little bit of that I would like to sell as well. So I'm going to do a bigger altcoin update tomorrow morning when I look at them. So some of them are on really, like this is Pepe. So in Pepe, we have pulled back to the highs from May, really nice level. We have it's a back test of this high, and if we've done an equal measure move, it's also a back test of a 61.8 fib level, which I always value. If I take that away, I'm going to move this and measure from this low from the August, just like Bitcoin and ETH. You can see we're doing that. We bounced from the 61.8. We got above the 50%, and here's our 38.2. So in Pepe, this is really we're in that golden ratio zone between the 61.8 and the 38.2 fib, and a breakout from this range will tell us which way next. So in other words, if we're going to do the 5 waves down here, so 1, 2, 3, and another swing lower down to the 786, which would be here at 10,672. So that would be the target if we break down here. And if we do another swing higher, we can say this 3-wave correction is over, and we're way up again. If we break above 19,765, we can say that because we're in an uptrend. We've done, 5 waves up, we've pulled back 3 waves, everything would be good. So we'll be bullish back above 19,765, and underneath 14,450 we drop down to 10,600, and in here sideways we could get a little bit choppy. I think and this 50% level through the middle is a bit of a pivot level. So if we lose this is a little bear flag we've made over the weekend. Then if this is a little bear flag, then we'll go back to the bottom, and we'll see what happens here. Sometimes in this 61.8, 38.2 zone, you can kind of go back and forward for a bit. And so we could see a little bit of that in holiday trading. So this is kind of one of those charts that sort of sums it up, if you like. So that's where we are. That's my plan. I am going to lighten up. One thing, MicroStrategy at the moment, we need to see tomorrow where we open. But this was a pretty impressive bounce in MicroStrategy. And this is pretty bullish for Bitcoin. From the daily 50 moving average, where this swing is this swing here is 61.8 of this first swing, which is very common in a corrective move. So this is a bullish ABC. I'm waiting to see if this one can get back above the 20 moving average. That would be very bullish. Another way to look at it, MicroStrategy, would be 236 fib from this high to low. When you get an ABC, you put your fib retrace levels over both swings. So that's at the same level as well. So this is a big decision level. And it was also our first target in a bounce in MicroStrategy at 370. If we get above 370, the next short-term target would be 430. But when you make an ABC like this and you get it, the normal pattern is a 786 retrace, which would send us all the way back up here to 494. So those would be the 3 levels, target levels for MicroStrategy. They're only valid if we close above 370. So that's our first target. And obviously a close underneath this daily 50 moving average will give us a bigger pullback. But for this week, I think we stay in this range for now. So that's how I'm looking for MicroStrategy. Good luck, and I'll do a bigger update with more